to review our special assessment district. Please, in my voice, I am allergic to jacaranda trees, and we are surrounded by them. So every year, 2 months of the year, some people are very happy and others are. So without further ado, we have been informed because school is out of session that we need to be out by 8:30. So we are trying to go through this as quick, as smoothly as possible and entertain any ideas at the end. My cards are there and some information is there as well. If you need to fill out any questions or you'd like any questions answered, we can get back to you by next week. Latest would be Thursday. If you have any questions, my office will give it to me and I will personally contact you. In the back, ladies and gentlemen, are schematics, 2 versions of the proposed board, one to the left behind Mr. Grajeda and one to the right. The first one has a deduction of 2,500 square feet and the other one is the original plan of the proposed park that's been approved. So without further ado, here is our Director of Finance, Ms. Jones.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. So we were asked to put together a presentation. I know I've even received some questions from the community about the special assessment district. How do we do the record keeping? Put that together. In putting that together, one of the things that we identified is that there's certain service levels that we're providing today that, if we had our wish, could be enhanced. And so in this presentation, you're going to see different options that we put together, and we have some numbers behind those options and what could it mean. These are just options. There's just information. This is information only. We're not moving forward with anything. In fact, in the end, we're going to give you a survey to get your feedback and tell us what your thoughts are. Because we're limited in time, we're probably not going to get a chance to speak to everybody. So if you will fill the survey out, you can put your thoughts on the survey and then get it back to us. But this is information only. I'm going to kind of go over, this is where we are today. Here's the numbers for the past 5 years. And then Meg McQuaid, who is the Public Works Director, is going to speak to you specifically about service levels and contracts that are currently are being paid right now with the assessment district revenue. So we'll get started. This is an accounting, just so that you know, on the finance side. This assessment district revenue is separate. It comes in a yes?
Yes, I just want to know, before you get started, if this will be on the city's website or if you can email this presentation to us.
I'm sure we can have a place on the website. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, because you may want to refer to those options that we're going to give you and, take time to put your feedback down and then get us the surveys back. So that's absolutely a great idea. So the assessment district revenue, as you'll see in this slide, I'm sorry, go to the next one. She said she's going to move me along, so she's keeping me on track. So the revenues and expenditures that you see on this slide are only the assessment district. We get the revenue information from the county on reports, so we know how to code the revenue. It's in a special revenue fund. For those of you that have gone online to look under the budget, you can actually find this information in our budget document, separate from the general fund. It's sitting in a section by itself under the special revenue section. So you look for special revenue funds, and then you'll look for the assessment district for Phillips Ranch. And you'll go to that tab, and you'll see the budget that's set up just for this fund. So we did kind of like a 5-year financial history. On the revenues, you'll notice there aren't a lot of different revenue sources. We have assessments, so that's what we get for the property tax. You will see that there's some fund balance there, so there is interest income earned. In fiscal year 16, there was kind of a bump in interest income. That's a year-end entry. At the year-end, the auditors say, what is the value of your portfolio? And if it's a good day on June 30th, it may be really high. If it's a bad day in the market on June 30th, it may be low. It's just a point in time for our investment. We haven't cashed them in, but it's a book entry. However, I will say, you'll notice in 18, the revenues are going back up. We have diversified our investment portfolio. So we are hoping that funds that have cash in their fund balance, which is this fund balance, about this amount here, they will earn more interest because we're diversifying our portfolio so that we can try to gain a little bit more interest. It's all according to our investment policy. We're not doing any crazy investments. They'll be in different types of government agency investments and things like that, and bonds, things that are secure. But they're going to be a little bit more diversified. Right now, all the money's mostly in lake, and lake rates have been pretty low. So you will see also in fiscal year 15, there was a transfer in of $114,000. But then you also see a transfer out of $114,000. And that was for the wall. Yes.
That was for the what?
The wall replacement
Oh,
over here, where behind this area, it started to have a slope failure and started to push the wall out. We were fearful with children obviously going to school and everything, so we replaced the wall.
So what happened in that particular year is the decision was made, and I'll kind of tell you why in the end, the fund balance, we don't want it to ever get really low. And because the fund balance provides cash flow for this particular fund. When you guys pay your property taxes, you don't pay it every month, right? You pay it twice a year. So you pay your property taxes in December, and then again in April. And so that's when we get the money, when residents pay. And so we have to have money up front from the beginning of our fiscal year, which is July, until December when the revenue starts to come in. And so what you'll see here is that we never want to get below about 400,000 because that's what our shortfall is around December time. But a decision was made in fiscal year 15 to move money in from the general fund to fund the wall capital replacement. Optimally, if the fund is operating on its own, it's setting aside reserves to handle large projects like that if they come up for emergencies. So you'll see at the very end is the fund balance. So this is a rolling number. So you have this amount, then you either subtract or add, however the year ended. So in fiscal year 15, there was a loss of $42,000. And so now the fund balance went down. And then it goes back up because we had a surplus in fiscal year 16. Obviously, each year you have to sometimes modify, scale back. You may see that in your service levels. You will see that the contract services amount went down. We can't constantly operate at a loss or you get your fund balance. There's personnel costs, contract services, gas and electricity, water. Those are things you can't really do a whole lot about. And then we have some small operating costs. The internal services, so those are just administrative costs, like IT allocation for information technology services and things like that. It's a small amount, but every fund in the city is charged administrative costs. And that covers the cost of providing all administrative type overhead. And so each year, end up with a net, whether it's net income or net loss, and it goes to your fund balance. Next slide. These are just contributions that have been made to Phillips Ranch over the years. The general fund in various scenarios, for example, in 2016, paid $110,000 for tree maintenance. And that was trying to get rid of some of the trees that sit here. There's a leopard pine and poplar that were removed. And there was some brush clearance done in 2015. So when those type of projects were needed, the general fund stepped in and funded those projects. Again, the idea is that we're trying to build reserves in the special assessment fund. The only challenge we have now is that, as you, if you may be aware, may not be aware, I was here not too long ago, the general fund right now is being challenged to balance its budget every year. So we balanced the budget for fiscal year 18, the year coming up, but we balanced it in part with one-time monies. And so the general fund, I can't promise, will have the ability to be able to transfer funds for special projects such as these in the future. The general fund really is being challenged with increase in PERS costs, et cetera. So those are things that I'm dealing with on the other side of the equation. And so what we're bringing tonight are some ideas of how to manage this fund in the future. With thinking about going forward? How do we keep going forward? So I mentioned the fund balance several occasions. The GFOA, they provide guidelines for all cities. So all cities, how much should we have in reserve? So they have an assessment tool that you do, and it looks at your future needs that you may need for capital. It looks at your cash flow. It looks at your regular operating costs. So it weighs all those factors in, and it comes back with, this is how much cities should have in their reserves. And doing our tool, we were in this kind of moderate level, risk level, which would require fund balance of 17% to 25%. We adopted a reserve policy many years ago, and our policy says 17%, so that's the minimum level. We would not want to be lower than that. So we're currently at 17%, but as we grow and look to the future, we should be in the range of 17 to 25%. So I just did some hypotheticals up here just for the special district fund. As I mentioned before, we need cash flow of about $400,000 because if you were to look at our financials around November timeframe and December before our property tax money gets credited to that fund, it's in a deficit. So you have to have cash to pay the bills until the money comes in. And then after April, we may have a surplus until all the expenses hit at the end of June. It happens for both the city and all the special revenue funds that rely on property tax dollars. It's the way that we operate. So we, even the city, we have to have cash in reserves to fund that shortfall. In an ideal situation, if we had 25% of our expenditures, that's how you calculate it. So our budget for fiscal year 18, if you were to take 25% of that total budget, we would have $240,000 just sitting in the special district fund for emergencies, things that come up that we didn't expect. It's good for credit rating as well, but this is just an ideal scenario. And then if you could put $102,000 aside, as you notice, some of those projects that were done, like the wall, was $114,000. The other project we did was $110,000. So if you had $100,000 sitting in the fund balance at all times for CIP projects that needed to get done, then you don't have to defer. So ideally, the fund balance, if it were at $742,000, from a financial perspective, just being the finance director, I would be really happy if that was sitting in the fund balance. That way we would meet all the needs that are needed. Whether it's an emergency or whether it's just projects that have been sitting out there that just need to get done. Sometimes projects, if we can do them incrementally, it doesn't require such a large payment. But if we, aren't able to do that and we have to do a large area at one time, it will cost more. Either scenario, if you have money in the fund balance, it's available for you. So with that, I will turn it over.
Good evening, everyone. First off, thank you all for being here. I know this is very important to you, and we appreciate not only you listening, but also your feedback at the end. So basically, you know better than I do what you pay on your property tax bill. It's $277.81, and that's collected basically through your property taxes, Onyx indicated. And this hasn't been raised in over 20 years, despite increasing costs. So that's part of the reason why we're here tonight, because as you know, the infrastructure over time has aged, the landscaping has aged, and costs themselves have increased. So, but where does my assessment dollars go right now? So what we did in this chart is we tried to highlight where they actually are being spent. You can see roughly 50%, and this is based on the year end for this current year. Roughly 50% of this was spent on the landscape maintenance, contract tree maintenance, and then the extraordinary costs. So the extraordinary costs, that related in part to more poplar removals, but it also related, some of you, I see some of the familiar faces from Quiet Hills Road. There was a fire, unfortunately. There's homeless problem there that caused us to need to spend more money. It was almost $30,000 to clear out that area after a fire occurred. And I could just give a brief update. We're still working with the Forestry Service to move forward on the brush hills on the clearance over there. There's a fish and wildlife issue. It requires CEQA and a lot of other steps to resolve that. We're working with the Forestry Service and plan to be at the June 28th meeting for Quiet Hills so that we can talk in more detail about what we've done so far. So just wanted to give you an update on that one. So part of it is spent on water costs, and then we have some personnel costs, and those personnel costs are really the oversight for the district, meaning our contract manager and our landscape manager who oversee it. Other operating costs are things like for Quiet Hills, we had to hire a biological survey team to come in and do a survey as the initial stage of the process. And also lighting changes. You'll see sometimes people will break those lights on the monuments, so we've started to change them out to a different style, so they're less vandal, they're more vandal proof. So those kind of operating costs are included in this. So then and now, if we even look back 10 years ago, your dollar went farther than it does now, and how we spent the money was a little bit different. This was the budget and the expenditures. So we've spent roughly $1.4 million. That at one time included the parks that are here in the district. Those have been removed. It also included a higher level of tree trimming. It included higher level of landscaping, some natural plant replacement, and other items that essentially made the district look better. So here we are today in fiscal year 2017. So our watering costs have been reduced, our landscape maintenance has been reduced, and the tree trimming reflects not only the contract amount. Part of the tree trimming was included in the contract services with the landscape maintenance at that time. It's now been peeled out into a separate contract, but that included the Quiet Hills, the poplar removal, and some extra things that normally that base price is about $114,000. So prior service levels, this is just talking about, well, what did that get you? What did that money in 2007 get you? It essentially got you more staffing, which allowed us to do special projects. So if you pay for pieces of crews, occasionally you could have those crews come in and do major clearances, major upgrades, planting replacements, all those things that are necessary to maintain your landscape the way you want it to. We also had a higher frequency in terms of tree maintenance, and we had more watering, better landscape maintenance at that time. And before we get off on the land, I really want to highlight the landscape maintenance. Right now we have a contract with Landscape West. We have, in my opinion, a robust scope of service. And what a scope of service is basically their framework for how they're supposed to do their job. You obviously can see, we can see they're not doing their job the way we need them to do their job. So we have started the process of essentially putting them on notice to potentially terminate their contract. They are not performing the way we need them to perform. So I did want to reassure you that we're aware that it's not working the way it's been, and we are addressing it and hope to have it resolved fairly quickly. This could mean that we would have a replacement contractor come in, obviously in the next several months, and so there would be a transition period, but the desire is to have a higher level of service and to complete the scope of work that we need them to complete. When we originally hired that contractor, we basically go through a bidding process. So we take that scope of work, send it out to companies, and we evaluate those proposals as they come back. Landscape West was the lowest bidder. Spectrum Care Spectrum Care was the prior contractor. They were also a bidder, but they had been in here and knew what it took to do it. And some of you feel like they didn't even do it well, but they bid almost $80,000 to $100,000 higher than this lower contractor. The contractor, however, had glowing references, so we had no reason to think that they couldn't accomplish what they said that they were going to accomplish. But that sets up for my future options and why you're going to see a number of 102,000 because it relates to that bidding. So we have several options when we look at the current service levels and we look at the current funding levels in the district because funding will equate to service. So right now we have 277.81 and it is an option to remain as is. It is an option to have that to keep going for the next several years with no adjustment. But what that means is that right now, we don't have enough money to cover our costs. We don't have enough money to do appropriate tree trimming or to do appropriate landscape maintenance. So that would mean that we would have to, and together with you, rethink if this is our choice, and it obviously can be a choice, that if this is our choice, then we may have to rethink how we do our landscaping and how we approach this whole district. Maybe it's something where we stop having a real scope of work in the aesthetic side of the landscape, and we really go to safety. We go to making sure the fire areas are clear, and we do tree trimming in a more aggressive manner. We still have to have that, our revenue comes in at the same level, which is roughly this. We would just have to figure out in that, how do we accomplish the most we can? So I just want to say that if we continue, we can't offer landscape services and keep going. Things would have to change, whether it's allowing parks, or not parks, but the green areas to go fallow and changing some of what we do. So if we want to go on to the next, but there is the possibility of increasing assessments. So this option 2 is basically increased to meet the standard maintenance level. So when I talked about the bidding process in the 102,000, this first one is basically bringing us up to the next contractor and what we know their cost will be. So this doesn't enhance anything else in the district, and the maintenance levels everywhere else stay the same. So if you're looking at how much that would mean to you, because that's really where it counts, it's a $30. So these slides are all set up similarly. So this is the annual increase, and that is what it means in the corner, is what it means to you per month. So if you want to turn the next slide, Irene, please. So this is where that additional increase would be devoted to, all to landscape maintenance. So it's kind of like at your home right now, increasing it to this level would give you a solid mow and blow service. You know that it would be maintained the way you want it to, your yard would look decent. So the next slide is, this is a third option, and basically this adds in the tree trimming. Right now, there are roughly 12,000 trees in Phillips Ranch, and we simply cannot maintain 12,000 trees. So this adds in a 7-year grid cycle, but doesn't trim all 12,000. What we did is we looked at how many trees are in the parkways, how many trees are within 100 feet of your homes, and came up with a number of roughly 8,000 trees. And that's what this is, a 7-year grid cycle of those 8,000 trees, and it's leaving the open space areas as they are. Kind of like at your home, if you hadn't trimmed the way you needed to, grid trimming, if you couldn't do an ongoing maintenance, when you actually got to trim, you would have to do a higher level of trim. And this is a crown reduction trim. It's a higher level. It's not just lifting a few branches. This is really getting in there and reducing the tree. So this gives us the mow and blow, but has your trees looking nice too. So if you want to go, did I say out loud the impact? So you're looking at $582 per month, and then if we change, then this is where the money would go. So it essentially would generate that extra $231,000. 102 would be spent on your mow and blow, and the other side would be spent essentially on your tree trimming.
Does that 582 include the 255?
Yes, yes.
What was the
This
question?
was the 255, and this is the additional change.
What was the question?
It was, is the 255 additive, like is it 582 plus? So 255 is this side, and this is the additional amount to get you up to the 582. And each one will be like that. So that's a great question. Yes.
Funds required to require contractors contract.
There is, and we have bonding, so we're going through the surety. And you know, it's like an insurance. Performance bond is kind of like an insurance for your contract, and we did put that into the contract. But basically, it's an insurance company. So, as with most insurance companies, their desire is not to pay you a lot of money. So we're putting together our administrative case to try to get as much money as we can to recover any additional costs.
How much are you talking?
With the surety company, we're not certain. It's up to 100% of the full performance of the bond, of the contract. But as you know, they're going to look at damages and they're going to look at individual. So we're not sure. I certainly don't think it'll be anywhere near that full contract price. but we're hoping to at least recover the difference between getting us from here, where we are now. There's obviously a lot of work that needs to be done to get us where we should be right now. So we're hoping to at least recover that and get some additional for plant replacement.
What is the current contract with Landscape West expired?
It expired, the initial term was a 3-year term. They are in year 1 of their contract. They are in year 1. Yes, yes.
On watering, everything died. The amount we would spend on watering, where is that money going? Can it go to some of the maintenance areas? And since we're not gonna have anything in the medians except for stone, and it's not gonna be maintained, that's not gonna have to be really, except the have some planted, but it's not gonna have to be mowed all the time.
And that will reduce the cost over time. Right now, it hasn't reduced the cost. And the watering, we anticipate a bump up in watering just because the drought restrictions have changed. And with the new landscape contractor, they're required to update the irrigation. They're required to have it on. They shouldn't be killing our plant material. So we would be watering more, and those costs, we have them projected at about $220,000. We anticipate it will be that when we're watering properly to maintain the health of the plants.
A lot of the brush has died and now needs to be trimmed because it wasn't watered.
And that goes to this gentleman's question about the surety company and insurance and what can we recover.
You said 100,000 people.
Yes,
What's referred to as the green belt.
yes.
Actually, how much is that costing us a month? As you say, long road.
You know what, it's not called,
Can you repeat the question because I can't.
Okay,
hear what he's
certainly.
saying.
He's asking, in the contract, is the parkway area and the kind of the mow and blow that I'm talking about, is that called out separately as a cost factor?
The green belt, how much is
The
that?
green belt,
costing
and
us?
it's a monthly figure, it was not broken out into, it's this, so I can see if there's any cost per acre that they had to do.
400 grand or something for contract services, so I'm wondering how much is that costing us?
It's
And how many people are we actually, per
Getting
se,
for it?
employing?
through that contract.
Yeah.
It's roughly 300,000 for the Landscape West contract, and right now they're telling us that they have about 5 people that are here servicing. By the time Spectrum Care left, they had almost 10.
And what is the city's vehicle to ensure that we're actually getting 5 people and not two people?
It actually doesn't call out a specific amount, a specific number, it just says you will do the job for us.
So, sorry, we're paying this money, we don't know how many people are working, we're not quite sure when they're working.
Well, we know when they're working,
Well,
but there's no,
a lot, it's questionable when they're actually working.
and which is part of the reason why we're pursuing termination, because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
So it goes back to my question, what vehicle does the city employ to ensure these people are actually doing their jobs?
We have, when you look at the staffing levels that we have Chris, who's our current acting Parks and Landscape Manager. He monitors the contract, as well as there's a contracts coordinator who also assists with that. So those 2 people, it's their responsibility. They hold ongoing meetings with them, but also tour the district.
The reason I'm asking is I'm just curious, for about 9.5 months on the green belt, because it's, about 25 inch higher than 6 planner. Until I talked to Steve Lustro, and Steve goes, no, I don't think that's supposed to be there. And he actually called the city, and I guess whoever removed it, finally removed it, but it was pretty clear the landscaping people were just kind of like moving around.
And like they thought it was planted too.
Well, I don't know.
I'm not certain about that, but that's not what
My
should
question
happen.
is monitoring that we're getting.
Okay, yes.
They probably picked them up with somebody.
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with the contract with the landscapers that we have here?
I am, but I have the contract in case you want to go over details.
Yeah, well, the question I have is that I appreciate you acknowledge the fact that they are doing subpar performance based on their contract agreement. My question was, when did the staff realize that they're subpar?
It's been an ongoing with them.
What'd you say, 4 months, a year,
I would say it's at least 4 months,
about 4 months?
at least 4 months. I
Well,
know that
Councilperson Escobar says that she's been trying to see how we can replace them, but the city council wouldn't cooperate. Are you familiar with that at all, or?
Well, I know that Councilmember Escobar had concerns about the landscaper when they were originally coming on. And I know she expressed a lot of discontent with and concern that their low bid would not be adequate, which is why I was mentioning that we had multiple conversations with them and vetted their references, and were assured by not only them but others that they would be performing. And there is always a kind of a transition period when you change landscape contractors. So there's a learning curve, there's a little leeway towards the front of the contract, but we started to notice the performance issues.
Yeah, but although, with all the contract agreements they've made, with all the violations that may have done, that there would have been a breach of contract, so why isn't the contract canceled now? Why are we still reviewing this?
That's the process we're going through now.
A process.
It's another.
If it's a breach of contract, it breaks us today, so why can't we
But
do
you
that
still,
today?
in order to collect from the surety company, you have to follow their process. So we are following their process. I mean, we could terminate them tomorrow. Actually, today was the date of their termination letter. However, we wanted to make sure that we could potentially collect from the surety company and.
But then there's multiple violations of their contract. I don't understand how the insurance company would need to go through a process.
The surety company, well, it's just like anything. They want you to prove their claim, your claim. So you have to document it, you have to provide them information, you have to provide them enough days.
Well, I have a lot of proof here, if you'd like to see it, of all the violations that they've had in their contract. I can read them off to you if you want.
We have those violations, and they're listed in their letter, and they've been provided to the surety company. But I'm
See,
glad
my
to
concern
take
is
your-
that you guys were having a hard time with our landscapers, and yet you're asking us to spend more money. How do we have the confidence of knowing that that money is going to be well spent for the next landscaper?
Absolutely.
That goes back to my other question.
Right.
Who's money in the shop?
Right.
Why did it take so long for all of a sudden somebody to realize, hey, they're not doing their job?
In part, it has to do with staffing. The people devoted to monitoring this contract are not only devoted to monitoring this contract, you pay a portion of their salary. But in terms of ongoing maintenance, it's, all I can tell you is that, I know I won't be, allowing it to continue. Right? That's what I can assure you, that I won't be allowing it to continue. When we see deficiencies, we have the ability to deduct from their invoices. We will be deducting from their invoices. We will be addressing the future contractor in a much more aggressive way. And it's where we go from here, right?
Dog park.
There are, I believe, 5 or 6 South areas of special assessment district. This is the largest one and includes the most landscape areas. It's almost, I think, 230 acres that are maintained under this contract.
Does this assessment include the internal walk areas and the development? Because I live on Skyline, and I haven't seen a contractor in there.
That's ours.
I had to submit complaints to get the weeds cleared at the end. It looks very bad. And it took me 2 years to get somebody to trim a tree that was hanging over my fence. So apparently whoever is watching them is not actually watching all of it. Because they're not doing the job at all.
It's not regular.
None. None. And the weeds are 3 feet high and
They just came 2 weeks
the
ago.
grass is dying.
There were kind of minors at the
So-
time it was.
But you said that this contractor has been in service, the 3-year contract has been, this is year 1.
This is your one that began July of
And how long will it take to terminate their?
We've issued them a notice, and the surety company, it's June 22nd, I believe.
Now, if this contractor gets their notice, like a lot of companies, they'll huddle and bring a few more guys out, blow a few more things. Does that now reset the clock for them, or are you definitely going to terminate that?
I would say, if you guys can see, we have given them notice. We gave them notice almost 3 weeks ago. And I have seen some difference, like yours is finally getting cleared a little bit.
We have been complaining about it.
But part of it is their threatened determination. But in our opinion, they are not near where they need to be. In their opinion, they're about 90%. In my opinion, they're maybe 40 to 50, maybe. So they are not where they need to be at all. And
Give
so
the
they're,
benefit of the doubt, they're probably 50.
yeah. And
Because, over the years with the water issues and all the other things, basically our landscaping has died to the point where rehabilitating it is going to cost us a heck of a lot of money. In lieu of maintaining it, the city allowed everything to die because it wasn't water. So if you look at all of our fields, they're dry, the brush is gone, the ground cover is non-existent. And, for me as a homeowner, I don't mind paying more as long as the money actually goes to where it's supposed to go.
Question about the personnel costs. You said it was 2 people?
it's 1.8 something.
1.8
Portion.
1.35.
1.35.
And just to clarify, on the financial side of it, there's no one employee assigned to it. So it's 1.35 full-time equivalent. So there's portions of people that spend a portion of their time monitoring that.
So my question is, in 2014, we were paying $98,000 for that, whatever amount of people, for stuff we were paying for. Now, it's not up to like $178,000. I mean, that's a lot of money for 1.8 or 3 people.
Exactly.
No, let me clarify too, under the salary cost, it's not just the base salary, it's also the cost for retirement. And PERS has gone up significantly.
Why does that fall on the social security? We pay that in our.
Because that's part of the cost of paying for the employee's time. When you pay for an employee's time, you pay for their total cost, a portion of their total cost.
But we obviously haven't had anybody overseeing it because it's gotten so bad for so many years. So I mean, we're not getting our $150,000 worth this year.
The other part of what you're saying, I just want to reiterate for everybody, you're not going to like what we're saying in this contract, but in the purchasing realm, because purchasing does fall under finance, unfortunately, it's just almost like when you want to let an employee go at work. You can't just let them go as much as you want to just say this is your last day. So we have documented the violations, but then we have to give them time to try and cure the violations, even though we know they're not going to do it the way they should. But we have to protect the city because we could then be liable for the rest of the contract, and we don't want to pay them for subpar work. And so we have to unfortunately go through this process, and the attorney's office is working with us on this, and we're right now just dotting our I's, crossing our T's. Nobody wants to hear it. I know it's not good news because I want to kick them out now and hire another vendor. They've told us if you hire someone else right now, that's it. Everything's off the table. You will not recover any costs. It's over. So we can't just
Well, we have
hire
breach of contracts right here.
Are you saying that if you terminate their contract, there's going to be a period of time while there's zero maintenance? Because
No, we're not
I think we
saying
ran into that.
No, we're
some
saying
years
there's a
ago.
process that we're going through right now. We have to give them time to cure
Right.
the problems. When they try and they're not successful, and we're able to terminate, we will hire another firm because there's other health and safety factors involved. We will hire another firm, but we cannot do that until we go through due process.
How long is the process? Does the contract follow the city council process where Landscape West will have an opportunity to dispute the termination and then it go down that path? Because if it goes down that path, now we're looking at possibly another 6 to 12 months where we're still going to be eating costs, getting low quality service. So my question is, Landscape West is not going to go away quietly. Will they have to go down the city council's process? Is that the route?
We will follow, there are requirements that we have to follow, but in terms of terminating their contract and the clauses we have in their contract, they're in breach of contract, we have proof of that, we're going through the surety company, we have a conference call with them tomorrow. So there will be a formal termination of the contract and an award to the next contracting company, and then they could follow whatever risk management process that they would due
And
through another.
and there is a clawback clause in the contract.
There's a breach of contract clause, there's,
Is there a
yes.
clawback clause?
When you say clawback
Well,
clause.
you get inferior service, a clawback clause will allow you to retain some of the money that was normally paid, that good service. That's the clawback.
And that's the surety company, that's a performance bond, so that's the insurance
Has that
company.
been imposed?
That's what we're doing now, that's the process we're following. You have to issue notice to the surety company as well as to the contracting company. So we're following currently the surety company's process, so that we can recover as much as we can from them.
How many staff members are handling this problem?
When you say handling this problem, I'm
But
involved.
multiple departments are involved
Okay, how many staff members actually?
that have their hand in it. Oh, there's numerous, because we have the city attorney's office, finance, my purchasing manager is involved,
How many?
and now I've been brought in, and
Is it like 30, 20,
Probably eight,
I
I
would
would
say
say, probably. I mean, obviously, city manager will be involved, the council will be
Okay, I
involved.
have another question. This is for the trees, right?
This side is for the trees.
And what's that side for?
This is the landscape. Remember, we talked about the difference
Okay,
in the landscape?
okay, so how much increase for the landscaping is there gonna be for the new landscaper?
That's what this is.
That's $102,000.
It's anywhere from
Let
80
me
to
ask you this.
100,000.
If you paid the landscapers that we have now an additional $102,000, or maybe $80,000, maybe they.
They're not performing, so I would not recommend
I
that.
understand that, but what is going to guarantee the $102,000 additional funding is going to make sure that they do it?
Right now, we'll have the same thing in place, right? We'll have a performance bond, and we'll have obviously a much more aggressive oversight at the beginning, and meetings with them from day one. This is expectation, this is where we need you to be.
Where you get a year-to-year contract instead of a 3 or 5 year contract?
You can,
I'm asking you.
well, right now, how we're approaching it, in part to address your concern about what's gonna happen in the interim, we're looking to the next lowest bidder through the purchasing process, and so the next lowest bidder actually would absorb the initial term of the contract. So it's a 2-year contract, but we have those performance bonds in there, and we have the ability to terminate them for breach of contract.
but I
Real
also,
quick,
I also like to.
just real quick. We handled with the surety company and we terminate. And we go to a new company, and as I understand it, we're supposed to, when the bids come, we go with the lowest bidder. We're required by law to go with the lowest bidder. It's not something that we choose. It's legally required. I just checked with the city attorney. Be happy to have a community meeting where you meet them, where you actually meet the company, you meet their workers, and you can, they can tell you what they do, so that perhaps there's a different relationship between you and them. So I just want to put that out there.
I just want to clarify really quickly that this little lady here, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your name. This is also a proposed option. So what you see is not what we're going to raise. We can't do that. This is hypothetically speaking, I would be.
Could it be higher?
It can be, there's another option if it needs to be. I was not happy with the change since Spectrum left. And I have been on it, we've since had a change in the directors of Public Works. And Ms. Ned and Mr. Guerrero, the interim, our city manager and our city attorney have known that this has been something I've been less than satisfied with, especially on the loop where everyone sees it, and in the green belt where everybody
How
walks.
is traffic and speeding on the list?
So I can address that separately, but what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about this right now, we could possibly just focus on this.
Yes.
Okay, so we've been dissatisfied with your service from the get-go, and this is something that I have shared to many people, and we're doing this process. As you know, with 71 pending litigations in our city, we don't want another litigation from a company because we didn't follow due process. Now, this is another reason why we need to have everybody see this, because the scope of work, as you know, for those who are business workers and consumer, over time, things get more and more expensive. Gas, clothing, food, all of our necessities that we get. So as that happens, so does service. Services cost more. Employees, wages, so on and so forth. So this, we are proposing to you, first of all, in order for this to be enacted, you have to vote for it.
You have to.
And at the point that this happens, we can have 7 meetings on that. And I'm not in disfavor of having a meeting with the contractor, but I'm also not assuming that that's gonna fix the relationship. Because when you meet somebody, you get to tell them what you want them to know about you. They don't know your past. So this is why we brought this forward to you so you can see it. And we are going to have to do a full walkthrough with them as well. This is REPA. We have to tell them this area, this greenbelt area has been neglected for so long. This is something that we have to take a look at, not just do the popular trails where people walk. So this is why we're bringing this to you. And I don't want to cut too much into time because I know there's more conversation.
But what you're saying is that currently we have X dollars. You terminate the contract, you go to the next lowest bidder, which is going to raise the cost of maintenance. So you have fewer X dollars. And this is a proposal for the future, right? Because it'll take someone to vote on this, and God only knows all of that's going to take. And I think the last time it was floated to raise our assessment, I think a lot of people said no, no, no. And personally, I think it's wrong. I think you gotta pay more in order to get the service. Because we're getting what we're paying for.
Exactly.
It's not a whole hell of a lot.
Another thing, really quickly, if we can interject, is when we say you have to vote for this is a mail-in ballot.
Yeah.
So I don't believe the city attorney can correct me. If I believe it's who mails it back. So you actually have to mail it back, and 50% of that is what gets enacted.
Yeah.
So you can forget to vote.
Yeah.
And there's 51, it could be 51 ballots, 39 ballots, something like that, God forbid, city rebel, but something that crazy could happen. So that's why when we bring this, we will bring this back to you several times. I'm a homeowner. So I am just as much here as everybody else here, and there's not a fraction of those who live in this community here. So it's not fair to have this and then have you all vote on it. I can't do that.
As you can see, there's a very few of the community here.
Absolutely.
If everybody was here, we'd be standing out there.
Right.
So at what point,
We have to see
You
whether or
know,
not you're even interested. Here's a good starting point to see, are you even interested in considering?
well, you know, I look at it,
I think we should
my
do
home
this for
is my biggest investment. And if the landscaping continues to decline, my property goes with it, you know, downward. And I don't want that, so if I had to pay an additional $60 a year, I'd be happy to do that, assuming though that there is a guarantee that we get what we're paying for.
We need to get accountability first of all,
Yeah.
and then figure out if there's a way that if they are in breach of their contract, that we can minimize the amount of time it is to terminate them doing the due process versus the situation that we're in now.
And can I just, I know a lot of people have questions and have been hands up for a little while. We need to get to the rest of it, but if you want to go ahead and ask your question, if you don't mind, we'll start the.
Two real quick things, I don't know if we might get to it. Number one, are we projecting, are you accounting for the new homes coming in? Are there, you didn't see any numbers like with possible numbers added to all of this, and I'm sure it's gonna make a difference. And number two, but my second is mostly a comment. I feel awful that we could not have been, as this community here, a little bit more proactive, like everybody else surrounding us, knowing we were in a drought, well, you know, a long time ago, even with Spectrum and whoever, even before them, you know, and making sure, you know what, we're in a drought, where could we cut water? Let's do these medians, let's look what, you know, Diamond Bar, Chino Hills, they're getting the water. And that's a chunk of water on Village Loop and some other areas that we could have been more proactive. And I hope in the future, you know, if things like this come up, you know, these droughts or whatever, you know what, get ready for it. It could have been such a minimal cost and we could have had that water come out, you know, way,
I think
way
to
down.
lose any trees, because that's the beauty of it.
No, well, they didn't lose
Do not
any
lose
trees.
our trees.
They didn't lose trees, they
Oh,
just
come on,
lost.
I think that
Yeah,
close.
no, I'm saying that, they took grass, they took other things that, you know.
They had water trucks go by.
Yeah, so they did it well, like, we copied things like that, you know, I totally did. be a little bit more proactive.
And part of that speaks to the dollar amount that we have available to spend. If we don't have money to change out something, then we cannot do that. So that's part of the service level.
Well, Mayor Rothman found money to put that median inside Village Loop, so I'm sure there's money that could be found.
I'm sorry, what?
But our median on Village Loop, that median that was put in there, that was money that was taken from our assessment to build that. So there is money to be found when they can do that.
A recent median?
Yeah, this is about 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
But here, the issue is really, and I'm not speaking for everybody here, but I do know a lot of people here, it's the confidence that we have in the city and able to maintain that.
Right.
You see, because you said you only found out about this 4 months ago, and Escobar has been saying that this has been a long time. And I don't, to be honest with you, we live in this many years, I've seen it gone down for like years. It's not just last year or 2 years, it's gone by years. And so the city neglected it, and we've been asking for it to be addressed. And I appreciate you coming out here, and I'm not trying to beat you up on this, but there is a confidence issue, a trust factor that we have with the city staff, making sure that they're enforcing this contract that you have right now with the city and with the bond.
working in other areas of the city?
Not in other areas of the city.
Why could we sell that?
Yeah, you're a special assessment district, you're funded differently, MCE, I would put you There are, and those are the medians, and those are handled by MCE along with our contract, our partners.
How we did this group, the day I'm just curious.
Because you're such a large, 230 acres, you're a very large district, and we wanted a focused effort with a single contractor. And didn't want issues of them, which we're having, of them not having enough staff members or potentially going off to South Gary and performing work there because we wanted them to do something. They are only here in Phillips Ranch, and they should only be working here.
So one thing you said about.
Can we get the lady over here? I'm sorry, she's had her hand up.
I just have a follow-up question. You were talking about quieting the fire. You said you had to take the alarm on it in order to fix that. Is there no insurance? Does the city not maintain insurance on these open areas?
We're self-insured, so you have a dollar amount, so it's up to the dollar amount, that is less than our thing.
So any of these trees that fall down and hurt someone.
Okay, so we'll take the next question over here, please.
Okay, so even with government contracts that I've been involved in, when the company does not come through, they give you notice, and you either come through or you don't, and then you can use your contract like that. I don't understand this, like, delayed reaction. And then, so I don't understand why it has to take so long. One. Two, how many emails have come in saying, it's looking really shabby, our grass is all dead, okay. You have 1.4783 people on this. But how many emails come in, and how long does it take to read that email and go, oh, it's a problem? And then, why are we fencing jacaranda trees if we're gonna take them out?
Jacaranda trees, I'm not sure how
They're
those
not,
got
but
planted.
why, if the trees are taking up so much water, why do we plant them?
We're actually not proposing removing jacaranda, the only trees we removed were poplars, and they have.
So you're saying we're gonna have to take things out?
When I say take out, I mean service level. So I'm not talking about removing trees, I'm talking about maybe we don't maintain the grass in the same way. Like we were talking about the slope areas, the walkway areas. Maybe that is a little more turtle. And that's the point. If the assessment doesn't increase, then the service levels, there's only a set amount
I say we continue because there's still a space. I didn't know it.
Nobody would have a problem if they have a little bit more, if it actually looked like it should.
I'm sorry, what, Ms. Gina?
I'm sure nobody would have a problem with spending more if it actually looked like it should. Like it did 20-some odd years ago. We'll spend the extra money, but it needs to look like it should. I've been doing contracts for years, and I always had an expectation clause that this is the way it should look, and you've got 3 months for performance. And as you're doing things, if I don't see your performance, we're not going to continue the contract. And measure it in instead of giving a 3-year contract and then waiting a year or two before he has an expiration clause, have it within the first 3 months, and then past the first 3 months, have it the next 3 months. Why does it have to go that long?
And it won't go down. So that's.
Yeah, how much more of this?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, no one can really hear.
Could we see the rest?
No, I'm trying to do that, we're all getting asked.
If we could go through, there are just 2 more slides, and I'm sure you will have a lot more input for me. So let's just go quickly through this. There's basically a higher level of service option. So if we go to this one, when you're looking at this $11.24 per month, that's a total of $134 per year. This brings the tree trimming to 5 years and starts adding maintenance enhancements, starts upgrading some monument areas, starts replacing shrubs and maybe doing some irrigation upgrades and things like that. If we go to the next one, this shows the breakdown of how it would be spent. Little enhancements in the maintenance contract, as well as the tree trimming at the 5-year trim cycle. And then just the breakdown, there's tree, shrub, and plant replacement, just some additional enhancements, kind of like you would do at your home if you upgraded some smaller projects. This last option, because I know you want to give me more feedback, this last option, is this option 5? Okay, I'm sorry. It's the 209 increase per year, 1742 per month, and this is what I believe the district was back in the day, because this is probably what it would have grown over time. When you think about the fact that 20 years ago they were paying $277 per year, plus everything was new. You practically had new trees, you had new sidewalks, you had new landscaping, and they were devoting that amount of money, that amount of service level to the district. It looked lovely because you were paying for lovely. And this allows us to get those service levels back to where they were. And also it would allow us to set aside some money for capital projects. And if you go quickly to the next slide, these are just concepts of types of capital projects that would be done. It's fencing such as people know over in the Rio Rancho area, chain link instead of chain link, wrought iron, so they're not cutting it every day. For security purposes, monument upgrades, maybe some sidewalk replacement, lighting changes, maybe drought tolerant landscape in those green belt areas instead of the turf, right? It's the tree replacement project, it would be shrub replacement. So it would start to look again like you remember it looked when it was funded the way it was funded back 20 years ago. So go ahead.
Just a quick statement, perhaps looking forward, a community oversight committee that could offer input and feedback back and forth so that we don't get to this place so long down the road.
Yes, that would speak to accountability, it would speak to your confidence level. It is definitely possible.
And you know what, we understand inflation. I mean, 20 years ago, we looked at wages. Compared to now, we totally get that. The whole issue is just the accountability and where the money is going and how do we actually have that potential oversight to see what's actually going on. I don't think anybody's arguing that point, but we need that oversight and that ability to have that input
This
to
higher
keep it.
level actually gives you voted staff members who are only looking at those grants or pulled off on other projects. And that makes a difference in contract management and overseeing 230 acres of homes.
Can you tell us how many dwellings in Phillips Branch are really paying for the assessment?
I believe it's 3,000, thank you, 3,112.
So the condominiums don't pay assessment?
The new condominiums, they paid something under the commercial rate, they have to actually get sold and start paying. There's 124, and when you look at the difference in rate, we're not quite sure the exact dollar amount, but it's looking right, anywhere from 15 to 20,000 would be coming in from them. That's a different assessment than they pay for it.
But I don't mean the new ones, I'm talking about the ones right next to Winco, the ones on the other side of the Rio Rancho.
I'd have to look into that, how much.
Well, I did look already, and every one of them paid. I don't know where you get the 3,300. I called the assessed tax assessors today. They said that we have 5,480 paying assessment for Phillips Branch, which brings us up to about 1.3 million.
I'll have to double check with them because we file the reports and it's based on our engineer's report, and our engineer's report is 3,112. but it may include, that's the dwelling unit. They're separate commercial properties, so maybe they're counting the additional ones based on the commercial properties.
That's a large number to differentiate.
It's something that, it's an answer, we'll make sure we get back and we can possibly post it with the web, when we post this on the website, so everybody has it.
Please, thank you.
They have it. Okay.
Put this on next door. Yeah, survey next door. This.
In 1997, the minimum wage in this area was $5.15. This report is $13.25 today. That's difference
And that's why to pay, there's prevailing wage, we actually have to pay, yes, all of that. Required by state law.
So, well, and then if you look at the CIP, it just turned around and said 277 over 20 years is 426.
Which is why I think that option 5 is probably closer to where
Inflation.
There's got to be something, just to answer the point, when we look at $120,000 to maintain the place, and if everybody here can drive back on the way home can figure it out, you get the people making $120,000 a year to oversee the place, you'd have to bring it to their attention. That's the part of it.
Those contractors are cagey. They do all the work on the roadways, right? But when it's up against my house or your house or his house, they don't do a damn thing because whoever is overseeing these from the city doesn't get out of his damn car to find out what's going on.
Like, they don't go into whoever's overseeing the contractor certainly isn't going into the neighborhood.
And those are actually included in the surety company, and they're included.
Those green areas are.
No, wasn't that they, when they cut it back, they never picked up the.
This is the trimmings.
They never picked up the trimming.
Unfortunately, we have.
Do you have these pictures?
I'm gonna send it to you. Our city attorney did take some input, especially with Prop 218, right here to this.
Hi, I'm Andrew Jarrett, I'm City Attorney. There's I don't know if everyone knows, but there's some discussion here. Nothing's been increased for 20 years. It's been going downhill for 20 years. And it's looked like it's used to and so forth. There's some legal reasons for that. Some things happened. When Phillips Ranch was first created, somewhere around 1975, 6, 7, 8, Prop 13 wasn't even around then. And this whole district was a redevelopment area, which means property taxes go a different way than we normally go for different things. On top of that, the landscape and lighting district was also established. At that time, when it was established, each year, they mentioned the engineer's report. And the landscape and lighting district law requires that an engineer, civil engineer, write up a report. It's presented to the community to comment on. And at that time, each year, the landscape services would be projected a little bit more. And each year, the city would be able to assess residents and commercial property owners just a little bit more to cover that increased inflation and so forth. Well, then come along 1996, Prop 218 changes that and says you can't have that type of a tax. They would call it a tax if we continue to do it that way. Instead, we had to establish by a vote. And so we've been talking about the Prop 218 process and how there'll be a ballot that you vote on and a protest hearing and so forth. And what changed here in 1996 was essentially everyone else in California, some of you may have voted for it, I voted for it, I don't remember, froze your landscape process in place. And around 2008, was it, when this last came? 2008, it was put to you all that the city recognized there's a problem, we need to step it up a little bit. And at that time, it probably, if you have an increaser, CPI increaser? No. No. One way of doing it would be to have a CPI increaser, so they wouldn't have to come back to you. We wouldn't have to have a Prop 218 hearing, a Prop 218 vote. But the point of it is the rules changed on us. the rules changed on the city, they changed on all of you because of Prop 218. So that, and people were talking, you know, when we first moved in here, it was good, and it's just gotten worse and worse since. Well, costs have gone up, and so service is gonna go down. And just like Meg said, it was brand new back then, and a lot was being spent on it. And so in 2008, it was put to you, where the city said, you know, it's been 16, 17 years, whatever it was then. I'm bad with math. The point of it is that if you want more services, the only way we're going to be able to provide those is through a Prop 218 method of increasing the assessment. So, I mean, our hands are tied. The only other way to do it is for the general fund to backfill here, and there are all kinds of political dynamics with that as well. But the money that is assessed under your landscape and lighting district fees stays in Phillips. And so it's up to you to determine what level of service you want, essentially.
Well, that's true, but the thing is that if we're not monitoring the current workers, I mean, for 3 hours, they were sitting there under the trees, doing nothing, sleeping, catching up on their rest, while I went to school and came back. I mean, we wouldn't be complaining if we would see work being done, pine needles swept up all along the streets. We wouldn't be complaining if they're doing the job they're supposed to be doing.
I know,
All
I've
the
heard.
problems, everything is fine and dandy, we understand that, but when you're not doing the job that we're paying a ton of money for, that's the problem here today.
And it's a lack of faith that is anyway, we say, hey, get up, buddy, but nobody else is doing anything, we don't have any control. So no.
Right.
Why do I trust you?
So there was also a question asked about what is the legal process of getting this contractor done and done. I checked with the attorney who's handling it. Tomorrow morning, there's a conference call with the attorneys for the surety company. That will then set the process, and it's looking like June 21 is the time frame when things would happen.
But if you obviously know costs have gone up, the revenues coming in basically stay the same for 20-some years. Why is it taking so long for the city to come forward and say, hey guys, if you want this maintenance, we're going to have to raise it? I remember receiving a ballot from sometime. Well, my memory goes.
3 years ago.
Huh?
3 years ago.
I don't know if it was 3, it seemed longer, much longer, because I saw something that said, would you be willing to pay $100 a year more? And I said, sure, but apparently the vast majority said no. And soon things would remain the same. But why does it take so long to come back and say, hey, you got to do something? Or just let it all die? And make it look like a desert. I mean, it's getting close to that in some areas. It is, but, yeah.
And I think it's just political will, it's the political will there to change it. Are you ready to make a change? Do you want to stay as is? That's part of the reason why we're here.
And listen, I completely understand. You have to look backwards to understand why where we're at the moment. But in looking forward, a recommendation was made by Mr. Mundy about a community oversight committee. I think the way forward is that. I don't want to say that I don't know all the particulars, I don't know the legalities of it, but I think it seems to be a reasonable idea moving forward. So, because if you raise them by vote, and this is perfectly fine for 2 years or 3 years, but 3 years later, well, I think the community oversight committee can say, listen, we need to go back to our neighbors and say, this is where we're at, these are the options, and this is how we move forward. So.
Another thing too, ladies and gentlemen, is that we already have oversight, and we could possibly connect the two with our Parks and Recs mission. And I know that you make presentations, and we have a couple, well, this is my here's Remington Cordova. He's on the Parks and Recs, and I told him to come here. But we have some method of oversight. But this is like the first step towards moving. And obviously, how many of you found out about this via Nextdoor? Or via Facebook? Or Instagram? I own our citizens for better. So about three weeks of notice is possibly given. We got to do this again and again and again. So once we do that, we can get more and more impact. And then obviously, in the front foyer, you have the opportunity to fill out your name, your email, and your phone number, so we can start building the database. My only concern is a lot of people say, yes, I'll show up, and then they don't. And then it's the same amount of people, and then those same amount of people have mistrust with those that are there, say, oh, I'll be there, I won't. So we can move forward. I am not saying that there isn't any pushback against raising or increasing it, but that's gonna have to take more than like 70 or 80 people. There's 25,000 plus or minus residents here, and the homeowners, what is it, about 7,000 homeowners that pay into this. So that's why we have to reach out to everybody. We can put it in a water bill, but then we have to figure out how we're gonna disseminate that by address and by area. And if it's just gonna be a matter of putting like a JPEG on or scanning it and having someone print it, then spending money on someone from city staff to stuff an envelope, I'm not cool with that, because they're supposed to be doing other work. So there's gotta be a different way to disperse this material. I would say to give staff about a week. Is a week is good enough to say, to get this onto the website?
I think it's less than that.
Okay, well, let's just say a week, okay.
Yes.
So a week to get this up on the website. When we get it up on the website, at the same time, we'll get this survey up. And if you fill this survey out here, you can fill it out here, or you can mail it in with your water bill, ladies and gentlemen, or you can take this into City Hall and give it to the water department. This survey is going to help us, because for those who can't make these meetings, guess what? We'll have their survey.
If you identified a problem, and that is there's, I don't know, 70 people here, there are how many living in Phillips? How do you get the information out to those that maybe don't care? And if you look at a lot of the properties that are maintained in Phillips Ranch, there are a few that basically don't give a rat's about what the area looks like. And they're usually rental properties, I think. But, so how do you get the word out for everyone?
So,
because if you just rely upon this survey, you're probably not
My
going to get
cons-
a positive vote.
right, I won't be relying on this survey, I can't, because there's a lot of people who don't also have access to the internet. And there's a large community that don't do that. Or if they get an email, it goes to their spam, but they don't check it, or so on and so forth. So we can have meetings, have a series of meetings on this, and then also provide it in an electronic form. We can also we could possibly give it to the schools. I don't know, we gotta figure out if we can do something like that.
You can put signs at the entry in and out, there's only a few entries in and out of here, and
Right.
that's how we all find out.
Or one day we can have somewhere in the green belts where the people come to the parks and hand out something if it's gotta be on a weekend. I wouldn't be against it.
You can post the survey on that store.
Well, that, I just said about posting it, but then there's also an audience, Ms. Gina, that we can't neglect of people who don't have internet or don't check.
How many people do you think don't have internet? I mean, even the homeless.
Well, a lot of people don't have social media as well, or they don't have it, so there's a large group of people that don't.
People without social
Right.
media.
So, I had to see for the water bill. Well, we can put it on, but that's what I asked, because now we have to put it for certain access.
Excuse me, is there more stuff that you said we have to gather?
Yeah, good point.
We're talking about the assessment, so.
That, you understand where you're coming from. You want to somehow get it out, we can start the word now. But we have 15 minutes.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
it's my understanding there are other items to discuss. Is that correct?
So there is no other item to
The
discuss.
dog park.
Yes.
Dog park.
Okay, let's not start, okay?
That- no,
Right,
no,
let's
the
not
drawing's back
start, let's not start. Okay.
Can I get something done?
So
So the dog park's the reason why we're here.
but this is not what was agendized or what was advertised, and if you
So then
stop
what
and
is
stop,
that
you see
there
that's
for?
not on there. We're providing this, ladies and gentlemen, as an update. There's two photos there, and you can see that one of those two options will be selected. And I wouldn't be against having it also placed if you want to put it on this survey on the back in this space.
How long do you think
We got it.
this process will take?
I would like to see it, I'm hoping it would be less than a year. I'm hoping it would be less than a year, because
I think part of the issue is the city must set some precise goals that says we want to accomplish this by this time frame, and then figure out how to get to that. Like somebody said, put signs, I mean, people plastering signs all over the place. So I'm not what the city plans to do.
if you can fill these out, we can collect them up here or back there, and then go right here, we have, remember, we collect these.
My mom and dad.
Yeah, because ours, I think you want to run and start talking. That's what I'm talking. That's what I'm talking.
To keep just all the shit.
Yes, I love it. But you didn't open it.
We're talking about trees.
Stand back next to me. And it's not a pity. That's how the picture.
I am trying to understand what's going on.
Oh, why don't we have our part talk?
Yeah. Just bring that before they get you. I want
People still want to talk about the dog park, so you have 15 minutes. Does anyone want to start talking?
Yes.
There is a dog park component, okay, just so we're clear.
Okay.
Okay?
I just told 2 minutes ago not to start. I thought you just said let's start.
And just so what I've asked, okay, is because we had a previous meeting where folks had a chance to express themselves, okay? And what I wanted to see, and Councilman Escobar wanted to see, is were there any other options given all the legalities, the time constraints, the contract that was already bid, that was put out? So I've asked Meg just to kind of explain to you where we're at with that, okay? But it boils down to one alternative, okay? And I just asked Meg to explain that so that you know, okay?
So basically, when we heard your feedback, some of the comments were things like move it to the back of the park, move it out of the park. You wanted us to look at other options. Currently, and not everybody was at the meeting, so let me take a step back and explain. There are certain parks projects we were able to obtain some grant funding for. This project has about $70,000 of grant funding towards it, and those are all tied together under a county grant with a deadline coming up of November 2016. So we have been going through a process of designing and planning and also awarding a construction contract. Can I get through it? And then
Absolutely.
Thank you. So we've awarded a construction contract, and I can't see which one. I think the gentleman in the red that's the original proposed park. You can see the outline of it. That is what we bid as a construction contract that we brought to the community meeting. And so we looked at putting it towards the back of the park. There are significant design costs associated with that, delays. We'd have to potentially pull it out of the construction contract, because when we bid the parks projects, all those that were tied to the county grant, we bid them together so that we could save money. We would have to pull it out, redesign it, and there's also potentially some CEQA issues in the putting it towards the back. So we also looked at moving it, but again, it was an increase for design costs and also delay, so we would potentially lose that park grant, and we don't want to jeopardize it not only for this, but also for the other park. So what we did is we looked at, okay, if we're staying here in this area, what configurations can we do? And so the secondary configuration still allows for the soccer fields to play, but it shrinks the dog park by almost 3,000 square feet and reconfigures it towards the front of the park. So that is the other option that's being presented, in part to allow for the soccer field, which was one of the biggest concerns.
Questions?
Question,
Mr.
Okay, first of all, there's a mention before about having a committee about covering the assessments, about raising the assessments. We're supposed to vote on this, okay? And there was mention about the Parks and Rec, as opposed to serving a subcommittee, having Parks and Rec to cover that, as far as whether or not, you know, the money's being spent correctly. However, that same Parks and Rec, correct me if I'm wrong, when they were asked about this dog park, they recommended that they not have the dog park, if that's my recollection. The other thing too, where there's a lot of talk right now about raising our assessments to cover this, cover that. And to me, that seems more of a need, okay, than this dog park as a want. Yes. It makes no sense whatsoever to have a dog park. You're giving us two options here. The third option that's missing from this table is not to have the dog park.
Oftentimes there's color of money, right? And we talked about the fact that the assessment district has dedicated dollars that can only be spent from the assessment district. Similarly here, the $70,000 was a parks grant to be spent on this particular dog park in this area. So that was approved by county. We accepted the money and moved forward with the project. But the other portion of it is bond proceeds. So it actually wouldn't get spent on your standard maintenance costs.
But you know what, that's like a one-time grant though, right? That's a one-time, or is it annually? Each year it comes up again?
Exactly.
Or is it just a one-time?
It's a one-time
grant.
It's a one-time grant for parks.
But it's $0 from your assessment, so none of this money is going to them.
So where does it
we can't even maintain our green belt right now, as it is.
It's just like the.
That way, maintenance doesn't cost us
Okay, so the annual maintenance cost would come from where?
I'm sorry.
The annual maintenance cost would come from where?
They're coming from the same place that they're coming from right now in terms of that area.
And we can't even maintain our parks.
But you're not maintaining our stuff now.
You guys go for problems that we.
May I just, the parks themselves are maintained from the general fund. They do not come from your assessment district, they come from the general fund. So those costs would continue to be covered by the general fund, but also those maintenance costs. We've spoken with the contractor, who by the way is a different contractor than Landscape West, but we've spoken with that contractor and he can cover them within his current contract price. So it's not an increase in those contract costs, and it is funded by the general.
More responsibility, and they can't even cover the
responsibility,
and they can't even cover the responsibility they have right now, Mel. They can't.
The parks.
Have you seen the gopher holes over here, ma'am?
I have, and they have a very aggressive.
The Denver Park is not clean. No. I mean,
Have you seen the crack pipes back there by the gazebos?
I take my 3-year-old son there, and I was very disappointed with how dirty it actually was.
You need to go visit the park.
So how is it that we're gonna add a dog park to have random dogs come? And people that can't even maintain picking up poop on the green belt.
Yeah, that's right.
Now we're gonna have them all confined into an area.
As it relates to, the dog park is obviously going into Decker Park, we're clear about that.
Why? You know, if that happens, you know, you already have litigation right now, enough with other litigation at Lincoln Park. Expect some more litigation. I'm just telling you right now.
Those are two separate cases.
I'm just telling you right now. No. What I'm saying is you got enough litigation in the city. I'm telling you right now, if that dog park, if you start shoving it down our throat, expect litigation.
We need a third option. We need a third option.
It's like
we need a third option.
Dog park. That's it.
The grant.
that you can upgrade your car, you can upgrade your seats, and that. Like I said, how did we, as Phillips Branch, come up with saying, or how was it decided, that we would get this grant money? Is it just for Phillips Branch or District 5?
It was the entire city.
Westmont is falling apart, the car tires. There's a lot of places that are falling apart. The priority is, the priority level, I guess, is just what I'm kind of.
So are you guys saying
we got this grant money, so that we fill in A, B, C, or D. What you like to use this grant money for?
When we first took the project, when we first took the project list and the project idea to the county, the desire was to do exactly what you're talking about, update the bathrooms, renovate areas, but the county was not interested in that. They wanted more activity-based projects. They wanted
So a sports complex, like we have to drive to Grand Avenue Park in Chino Hills or Diamond Bar, Pantera. I hate having to drive over there because they have lights, they have basketball courts. We don't want to be, hopping over the fences here in Decker. I'm saying, so that was not considered, the amount of kids that are around here, that didn't matter then, right?
I believe we submitted a request for restroom improvement. And they came back with us and said, so we said we figured out a way to try to repair a piece of the park that is in dire need of it. And to replace it with something that is very low cost, it's DG or what's it called? It's DG for the park. So the materials is not grass, it's not sod, it's DG. And so it's not, in the services that we're already getting, we're not adding, like MCE that's coming out to clean, they're not getting something added because they're already being paid to cover the area.
Is there anything else in the city has to be voted on in order to spend money to do things? And why does this have to be voted on?
There actually were, this came before council at least 7 times in different manners.
Wait, so the council voted, but the residents of the ranch didn't get to vote?
Well, that's part of the process, right? Not part of the reason why we have this meetings is because you hear feedback.
85% of the residents in the ranch don't want this, but it's gonna go in.
I can't speak to
You
that.
can tell me that, where you got that figure.
Off of the vote that was taken on next door, 85%.
How many people?
85%.
So 25.
What was it, how many?
144.
Okay.
It's up to 160 now.
If we're forced to have the dog park, not that I want it, but the liability issue being near a school.
Makes no sense.
I'm a teacher, and I know my kids went there, the kids do laps. It's not like, I know they're not supposed to play at that end of the park, but they do because they come around, it is a regular lap routine when you've got soccer fields and kids are with their parents and the little kids, and they're watching the soccer games. There is guaranteed they're gonna be coming over.
Makes no sense.
Liability issue.
Makes no sense.
Don't we have the room till 8:30, so we can start.
I would be happy to stay behind outside.
Just real quick, in addition to that,
Sorry. We'll get together.